Hello and welcome to this episode of the Ranting Atheist podcast. Today on Story of an Atheist, we'll be listening to the deconversion story of a fellow Nigerian atheist who deconverted from Christianity and became an atheist. And one thing I noticed about him, his own deconversion wasn't the usual internet watching videos. He actually did intensive research, and he being a doctorate holder, I'm not surprised. Did research, went to libraries, read books, at times add Google to it, but with proper research, like a proper doctorate degree holder, and it was really refreshing hearing his story. So please, if you are yet to subscribe, consider subscribing. Apple, Spotify, Google, YouTube, and many other places podcasts are available. So please sit back, relax, and enjoy the deconversion story of Dr. Adedapo. Hello, Doc, and you're welcome to Story of an Atheist.
Hello.
It's great to have you here. Yes.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
Thank you for coming. Yes, so thank you for coming to share your story and encourage us with your experience, your own perspective, because this country, it be things what many people have been through.
Yeah.
Your jaws will just drop like in this same country.
As in, I understand, bro.
All right. So I'm calling you doctor, but the person on the other end doesn't know doctor what exactly. They like to know you a little bit more. So what you are comfortable with sharing, your name, your location, if that's what you like. For age, if you are like our Nigerian brothers and sisters, millennial or Gen Z, if you don't give us specifics.
Yeah.
What to do for a living or any other thing you like.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, I don't sort of, count those things. So my name is Dapo. And I am currently based in the UK, London.
Okay.
So I'm a lecturer or assistant professor in marketing and strategy at University of Greenwich in London here. So with my age, I'm 36 years old. Well, I'll be 36 this year, actually.
Millennial squad. We are together.
Yeah, I'll be 36 in March. So my background, I'm an atheist in terms of my religious background. And yeah, what else do I? Yeah, I'm from Nigeria.
Are you single?
Oh, I'm married.
Nice.
Yeah.
Is okay? Maybe I'll ask that later. I don't know, but
you mean the wifey? Yeah, she's an atheist.
Yes.
Too.
Glory be to Lucifer.
Glory be to Batman.
Yeah. That's nice. So you're an atheist. So I always like to ask atheists, like, what do you define atheism as? What's your own definition?
So, atheism to me is really about rejecting theism, right? So theism is, when there's a belief in supernatural and there's a belief in God or gods, and there's also the divine veneration the veneration of that divine entity. So there's a belief that this entity needs to be worshipped and all that. So that's theism. So I reject that based on, one, lack of evidence, and two, also based on the fact that there is a historical, so historically, the where these gods come from, where the concept of God also came from, right? It's steeped in human societies. So you could say from a sociological perspective, right? We can definitely sort of prove that humans created the concept of God or gods or deities or whatever you want to use for whatever nomenclature you want to use. So on that basis, right, I reject the idea or the concept of a god or the idea of worshiping such an entity. So yeah, that's basically my own atheism.
Okay. Now, what you just said, can you just briefly describe how did you get to that conclusion that human beings actually made up all these things? Like, I know there's an extensive answer, but just as briefly as you can, like.
Yeah. So, when human societies began to sort of advance and evolve, we had a stage where there was sort of like, widespread ignorance with regards to, our reality, what the sun was, for instance. What was death? Humans didn't even understand why people would die. Where were they going, right?
Yeah.
Your loved one that you were eating and sleeping with just suddenly grew old and disappeared.
Okay.
So all those things, became quite, mysterious for a lot of humans at that particular stage of human evolution. And it culminated into rituals, belief systems and worshipping things that they didn't understand, including, the emergence of the sun. The sun was shining and like, okay, what is that up there? That should be something that is perhaps supernatural, something that, has some form of impact or power over us or something. So that was literally how a lot of these beliefs, were sort of woven, and you could then see, some form of commonalities across societies. A lot of societies either worshipped the sun or the moon. Some would worship even their ancestors. In some cases, it could be the stone or certain animals that they thought were sacred. So basically, you could see how religious beliefs were now sort of concocted, and then they became institutionalized too at some point. So from that historical perspective, I mean, we can point to the time when humans sort of created or invented this concept of God and also established belief systems around these particular gods or deities. And as a result of that, you could then say, well, if there's evidence that humans created that concept, those belief systems, then there's no reason for me to think that that same thing or entity or concept is responsible for my own existence on earth, right? Or something that I need to worship or whatever. So that's true. Our ignorance, it evolved in different steps, from we doing all the stone worshipping before somebody finally wrote it on paper. So let us now come back to you now. Can you give us, can you take us, how do I put it now? Can you share, what was your religious background like? Can you take us on that journey to absolutely.
How was your upbringing?
Yeah. So I was born into an Anglican family. So my father, so he was an Anglican. He was born an Anglican. But my mom actually came from a Muslim family. So when she got married to my dad, she became a Christian. And you kind of know that in Yoruba societies, we really don't mind having a family of, Muslims and Christians mingling and basically relating together. So it was not a problem that she was from a Muslim family. And when she got married to my dad, she also became a Christian. So I was born into that Christian family. We grew up an Anglican, but at some point, my mom branched out and then became a Foursquarean, right? So in the early 90s.
Pentecostal.
Hello, are you there?
I'm with you.
Yeah, so she joined Foursquare, and obviously we also became members, the children, and that was how the indoctrination continued. And I, was really immersed in a lot of church activities. And I guess it was also, because I was a young, curious child and I wanted, to know more about this new thing that I was sort of introduced to. So yeah, I became quite, I would say, I wouldn't say, well, we could say religious, but I think it was just it was because of the curiosity I had, and I just felt a sense of, I could say, belonging as a child, teenager. It made me feel like, I belong somewhere. I was taking Sunday school sessions, children's Sunday school sessions. Yeah, like at the age of, I was teaching the 12, 13. Wow. I was teaching. Yeah, I was really, really, heavily involved. But so at that time, I was actually a day student. So that I was in a day school. So I wasn't in a boarding school. So it allowed me to really focus on just academics and church stuff. But by the time I went to another school, so I transferred to another school, became a boarder there. Everything just changed. So that whole interest dampened. I kind of really didn't. I began to, how you would describe a Christian, but also sort of like a religious in a way. So I became
just
that.
Like going with the flow.
Yeah, like I wasn't
just for head
at all. I stopped praying. I stopped reading the Bible. I think I was going to. I never even attended. So the school I went to was a private secondary school, and we had like a chapel and everything. I didn't care about going to the chapel.
Was it secular?
It was both. I don't think there's anything called secularity in Nigeria. It was just a school where you had like the Christians and the Muslims, obviously, and
that's the best form of secular you can have.
Exactly. We have the two dominant religions there. Okay, we accept everybody now. But so they had a mosque and a church. So if you were a Muslim, you go to the mosque. Christian, you go to church. But I wasn't going anywhere. So my Sundays were pretty chilled. I would just be in the hostel, just chilling, and I didn't care about going to church or worshiping God or praying to Jesus or anything. But I identified as a Christian because I was a norm. Right, I still had to believe in God too. It's like, they believe in God. So people would ask me, so I'm a Christian, a bona fide, proud Christian. But I could count in the number of times I went to church, right, in a year. So that was my thing at that particular time period, right?
Yeah, could you pinpoint what exactly made you kind of lose interest in a way? Was it the environment or because there was not much indoctrination or?
So, while I was in the uni, right, I couldn't, I still can't really pinpoint whether it was a lack of interest or maybe I wasn't just really, should I say, passionate enough about God or church or whatever. But I still, like I said, there was that belief there. But I just really never cared about going to church. In university, it got worse. I went to Unilag. So my entire thinking at that time was really just, how do we, go from one party to the other every Friday? And then maybe when I feel the need to go to the library, to study and stuff. But going to church was really out of the question. But what happened was after my undergrad days, I sort of began to then go to church again. I guess I don't know, maybe because of the person I was dating then, who was kind of like a religious person. So she influenced me in a way to now, get closer to God. But the closeness too wasn't really all that. I wasn't still like a Bible reading person or a Bible reading Christian. Now, to just quickly answer your question, when I came to the UK for my master's, that was like 7 years ago. It was my first, stint outside Nigeria and then living with people from different backgrounds. So I had like four other flatmates who were from different places. Two of them were Americans, one was Chinese, the other one was Japanese. And then, we had they had friends too who were also from other places, different places. So, whenever we gather and we talk and we go out and hang out, I just realized that they kind of really didn't care about God, or none of them identified as a Christian or a Muslim. The two Americans were atheists. The Chinese girl never even grew up. She didn't grow up with anything God or religion, right?
Yeah.
Same thing with the Japanese. She knew about I think Shinto or whatever. But basically, they were irreligious, right? And in Nigeria, we were basically raised to think that the closer you are to God, the better your life will be. Economic prosperity is actually something you attain through God or through religiosity. Yes. So,
Grace.
you have blessings, divine grace, all those things. And then I saw these people who really didn't give a hoot about any God or any religion. And their lives were better than most Nigerians that I grew up with or even knew in my days. So that was sort of the catalyst for my thinking process. Yeah. And I was like, okay, there's something wrong here. So these people really don't pray. They don't read the Bible. They don't even call any God. But then they're good, right? So what is going on here? But it still didn't stop me from going to church every Sunday. As a postgraduate student there was a church close to where I was staying, so I would still go every Sunday. But then the questions, of course, they were all Nigerians. We're all Nigerians. So, but then the questions were coming up, right? So I was now really asking a lot of questions in my mind. Okay, Jesus, God, all these things. Okay, you know what? I'm going to delve into three things: history, philosophy, and science. So before I proceed, so I don't just talk, So I've answered your question. You want me to continue, or you want to ask a follow-up question?
Continue. I will ask as needed. Yeah.
Okay, nice. So, So those three things, I decided to focus on them. I was like, you know what? I need to really do a lot of reading, and I need to find out myself, right? So I was basically obsessed. I became a library rat. And I became obsessed with the love of books, from philosophy to science to history. History was really my thing. So I would go to the library. Our library was so huge then, and they had a lot of sections for history, politics, and all sorts of things. So I'll go there. I'll read books. I'll read books on Sumerian mythology, Mesopotamia, all those things, ancient Egypt, Hellenism, and all sorts of things. And I'll also Google them. I'll read stuff, but I was also careful not to just Google anything, right? So I realized that it was better to read academic journals because they're always peer reviewed. So I would, I delved into that, right? So I'll read academic journals, and thankfully I had access to them because I was a student. So I could easily access JSTOR and all sorts of platforms. So that was really the moment, that crystallized everything for me. I was like, okay, oh wow. So the Sumerian mythology literally says the same thing about, certain gods or whatever. The story in the Genesis is kind of like what I've seen or read about in the Epic of Gilgamesh, and all that, tablets that, you could point to in ancient Mesopotamia, including the Assyrians, Babylonians, and Akkadians. So all these things just really started opening my eyes. And then, obviously, science too. So read about the Big Bang, read about evolution. Now, prior to me coming to the UK to do my master's, I was one of those people that would say, nah, come on, we couldn't have turned into humans. Because it was a gross misunderstanding of evolution. Even though we all did biology, and as if we just went through the school and we didn't even learn anything.
My own crazy part is the evolution and the creation kind of stayed in my brain on parallel lines. They kind of did not clash throughout till my deconversion. I was like, what the fuck, man? Crazy, man.
So something with the Big Bang, right? And I was never a science student, so there was a friend of mine who was studying, I can't remember, or something, so he kind of something close to that. So he kind of sort of made it clearer for me in terms of what exactly the Big Bang is. All these terminologies and science jargons and stuff. So I was able to now really understand it. I'm like, okay. Also, basically, we kind of even don't need a godlike creator for the emergence or the genesis of the universe, right?
Yeah.
So where the hell did this concept of God come from then? Then I look at the historical text and sources that I've actually read. I'm like, okay, now I get it. Right. So Christianity, Islam, they all just copied each other and obviously copied their senior brother, Judaism. Judaism to sort of, grab from left and right, all the other. Yeah. So that was then philosophy too, right? So philosophy was the last bit for me because there was still that question of, okay, now that I can see that this whole God thing is man-made, and of course religion too is just about the dash. And I can see that the universe really didn't need a God, a Christian God, an Islamic God, and all that. What about purpose? What about meaning? What about me being here? Yes. So how do I even cope with existence? Right? Because I mean, when I was a Christian, it was easier to sort of make God the center of everything, right?
Yes,
so it was God that gave you meaning. It was the idea that you have to strive for eternal life and all that. So my purpose here is to just live a good life, a pious life, and impress God. So when I die, God can then put me beside Him and stuff like that. All that whole bullshit. Exactly. So philosophy sort of helped out in that aspect. So I started reading about existentialism and the Friedrich Nietzsche and all those people. Kierkegaard. So they gave me more understanding with regards to life, right, and to social reality. And my first degree was sociology, right, and I think I just went back to a lot of the things I'd also studied while doing sociology, right? So there was you want to ask a question?
No, I'm with you.
Okay, so August Comte is known as the father of sociology, right? And he sort of postulated the theory of three stages. So society is actually, so society sort of go through three stages. Sometimes those three stages can actually happen at the same time, and sometimes it could be one after the other. So you start from the metaphysical to the theological and to the scientific stage, right? So meaning that the way the society is constructed, or the way the society is based on the level of how advanced the thinking of that society is, if that makes sense, right? The society is at the point where they interpret everything in social reality through religion, for instance, and everything is about God and gods. Even illnesses or diseases are basically attributed to the wrath of deities or something, right?
Yeah.
That society is at the theological stage, and it's a reflection of the level of thinking of the people in that society. So it means that those people are yet to actually embrace science. They are yet to advance in their way of thinking. Then, if you have a society that is positivist or scientific, right? So it means that that's a society where you see the preponderance of scientific thinking. They are more likely to be industrialized. They are more likely to be secular and all that. And then you kind of see that people are less religious. They embrace critical thinking, scientific thinking, and yeah. So there's also a separation of church from religion and all those. Sorry, politics. State, church and state. Yeah. So when I read about all that, I revised all those things. I was like, okay, it makes sense now. So religion being a prevalent thing in Nigeria or in African society is really because that's the state we are as a society, and it's a reflection of also our level of thinking at the point. Not to say that we are not, intelligent or something, but the point is, we are still not at the point where critical thinking will be pervasive or will be prevalent in our educational system. For instance, exactly. Or at a point where we can separate the church from the state, right? Or at a point where everything will be about interpreting stuff, phenomena, using scientific thinking rather than religious thinking.
Give me that.
So those were the things that sort of made me denounce religion, right? Okay. Eventually.
Okay, so did you ever confront the theology? You have looked at it from philosophical, scientific, the theology itself. When did you get to any point of confronting the theology?
Yeah, so all those things I did them while I was in the UK. So after my master's, I went back to Nigeria. Interestingly, I had a girlfriend whose father, right, still a pastor till date, and I think my deconversion and the fact that I started questioning the theology too sort of ended that relationship. Yeah, because I became someone else. Like I was now different. So even my posts now became really atheistic, right? And then she was like, okay, you are questioning everything now. Like you just talked about Genesis and stuff. Oh, so you're saying Jesus never existed? Oh, are you saying there's no God or something? Oh, are you saying that Revelation was even just a fabrication of one dude that was probably on
drugs?
Some drugs. Right. So I began to question those things, and I would post about it. And I was really like I was frequent on Facebook then. Facebook was my thing then.
Okay.
And, yeah, so
like what year was that? What year? Around what year was that?
So this was 2015.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 2015. So, Facebook would give you enough space to write stuff. Unlike Twitter, we are limited to or something.
You go write some blog, yeah.
I will write a piece too. I mean, even my relatives, even my parents, they were now reading my posts like, what happened to this boy? Oh, wow. I'm telling you, like, people will call me, my old friend, like, Kappa, what's up? That was my nickname. Like, yo, what's going on? Like, what happened to you? Like, yo, dude, I've seen the light too. Right. So I began to question, the theological postulations of all these religions, Islam, Christianity, and blah blah. But what happened was, I still didn't fully embrace atheism like that. I guess there was a bit of cowardice too. And also because it was Nigeria. So you look around you, everybody's religious. And then you kind of, you are now struggling with, basically how to express yourself as an atheist or someone who is religious.
You have to explain yourself.
Yeah, there was no sort of allowance for it, and you know how. So it wasn't a socially acceptable thing as well. So all those things made me cower in a way. So I didn't really identify as an atheist. So people would ask, well, so what do you believe now? Now that you've written all these things and it seems like you don't care about God anymore. What was the last time you went to church? I probably didn't go to church for 6, 10. Oh, wow. So what are you now? I really don't want a label, So that was like my escape route. I was like, I don't really do labels and stuff. But in me, I was like, okay, you know what? Maybe I'm just someone who kind of believes there's something out there. Maybe I won't call it God. Or maybe that thing is not really active. Perhaps that thing doesn't interfere with our reality. So,
Spinoza's God.
So in a way, I'll be like, well, maybe I'm a deist then. Maybe I'm not really like an atheist, right? But that lasted for like a month. So
What pushed you?
Because the questions kept coming, like, okay, so a God that does not interfere in reality, but then it still doesn't. But I've already said that this God was created by humans and stuff, and I've read enough to know at least to believe that's factual, right? So this deism is not it for me then, because I'll be contradicting myself. I've already written this stuff about how God was a man-made concept and stuff. So why am I still believing that thing is still somewhere, but it's not just interfering? So I was like, deism is trash. So from there, I was like, you know what? Let me try Buddhism. Maybe I might be someone who just really cares about connecting to myself, and maybe there is that thing we call God. Perhaps it's in me, right? And it's in everything. Or maybe I just need to really meditate more and link up with that inner self. And maybe the voice in my head is even like the divine thing and it's sort of aligned with even Yoruba, philosophy in terms of the arena being your higher self and all that. So I guess I attempted to syncretize both. And again, there was just that conflict in me for some reasons I couldn't explain. I still didn't feel like that was me anyways. Until one day, so I already started working, right? And you know how Nigerians are now, even at their workplaces, right? Every Monday. So it was always like, I'm telling you. So the place I was working, right? So the general manager was in charge. She was like a pastor or something. So she was in charge of, nominating people. Okay, you pray today or you pray next week. So that particular Monday morning, she now, out of nowhere, just said, "Tap off, pray for us." And for some reasons, I just sat down, looked at her, looked at everybody, and I was like, "I'm sorry, I can't pray." And then she looked at me like, "You mean you don't know how to pray?" No, I don't pray anymore. And everybody just looked at me like, "Is this guy mad? Are you normal? Are you normal?" And then she leaned forward. She was like, "What do you mean you don't like? How? I'm an atheist." And that was the first time I boldly, So it just came from nowhere. I was like, I'm an atheist. I don't believe in God, and I don't pray.
There was that. Did anybody take any shock?
Shock in her eyes. Like she literally wanted to swallow me. Like, are you? So everybody just became concerned and at the same time shocked. So the MD walked in and they reported me to you like, that was wasting our time. We told him to pray. He said he doesn't want to pray or whatever. What's going on? What's the problem? Sorry, I just told the GM that I'm an atheist and I don't pray. And then surprisingly, he said, "Oh, that's fine. I mean, that's what he believes. You don't have to force it." I even like the fact that he can, stand his ground, honestly. And when he said that, I guess that was the confidence I needed. I was like, oh, okay. I guess I'm an atheist then. So,
wow, that's your guy.
Yeah, from
That
that moment,
is quite enlightening.
my atheism just I went from just being a weak atheist to a militant one. Proudly, I was proudly expressing myself as an atheist at that time. So since then rather. So yeah.
So now your confidence is high. Who was the first person in your family to know, or do they know, or are they still suspecting you?
Oh yes. So they got to know, and they stopped talking to me for like a year. Wow. So my mom was the one who became worried. So like I told you earlier, when I came back, I started writing a lot of stuff on Facebook. Yeah. So I learned the hard way that you don't add your folks as friends on any social media platform.
Oh yes.
So they were my friends on Facebook. So I guess my mom started seeing more, theological stuff. Like I was now really ridiculing religion, criticizing their pastors. With strong language actually. So I would call Adeboye a crook. I would say Depo is one
the thief
and all that, an abuser. So she became worried and she called, so one day she just called me like, what am I writing? I want God to punish me. Am I not what everything God has done for me? I want people to shame her. She's a whole dickness. How did I was like, calm down. What's in there now? I was like, so what? I said, look, I'm sorry, ma, but this is me now. I don't believe in God anymore, and I'm an atheist now. No. And then she just went berserk. Like, what? So, she screamed, shouted, also said all sorts of things. Ended the call. And a few minutes later, my pop called, and Hako, what's going on? Your mom just told me now that you've been writing a lot of things on Facebook. What's the problem? Sorry. Yeah. Well, I'm an adult, right? So I guess I can make my decisions.
You're working. They're not feeding you anymore.
Yeah, for real, bro. Like that's always the key
thing. That was
I told
get your leverage back.
Yeah, I even so I pushed back because you know how domineering and overbearing African parents can be.
You don't need to tell me. To this day,
I actually told my dad like he should stop infertilizing me. Because if you think that at this age I shouldn't be able to form my opinions, I shouldn't be able to look at the world and say, you know what, this is the worldview I intend to embrace or take or uphold, or this is now the belief system. That means so what was the purpose of you sending me to school to get an education? It's meant to ensure it's meant to get me enlightened. Get me to the point of enlightenment, and then equip me with the skills and the tools that I can use to make decisions for myself, negotiate value, for myself within the society, and know, what I feel is right. So basically, it enlightens me. It illuminates the mind. That's the point of education. So for me, I think, it's entirely up to me to make a decision with regards to whether I want to, be a Christian or not. Anyway, so that was literally it was a long conversation. He still didn't really buy the whole thing and hung up, and I think subsequently we had like a back and forth, and at some point everything just exacerbated, and we all just stopped talking to each other, and I didn't really care because I wanted to make sure that, it was necessary for me to make things stay that way at that point. Because if I had backed down, right, I don't know if I don't think I would have been happy with myself. Well, I stood my ground. So, they didn't talk to me for a year, and I was like, okay, cool. Then when you guys are tired, you reach out. Honestly. Yeah. And it did eventually. Oh, yes. After a year, I had already started my PhD then. So after a year, it's through my sister. We are just, we just want the best for you. We know you're an adult now, but it doesn't mean we can't still tell you or correct you. And I was like, no, don't correct me now. You advise me, and I don't have to take your advice. Right? And yeah, so they kind of really didn't have a choice but to accept. So now they even just sort of make jokes about like, oh, we don't know whether you shall go you worship now or whatever, but we still pray for you.
That is how they always default to say you are worshiping devil. Like
I know.
You can't just,
I don't even believe in Shogun too. By the way, I don't even believe in if I should go anything. So
or Satan.
Or Satan. Right? So yeah. Interestingly though, it's funny, right? My mom, I don't know what happened to that lady. She now even listens when I talk to her about how, for instance, issue, was really meant to be Satan and all that. So I'll sort of just give her some historical perspectives about Christianity and the way it permeated our societies, and how, a lot of things that we sort of believe is like true. Actually, it's not. It's just the mythological account of a group of people in another society. And then I'll point to other mythological accounts that other societies created for themselves, including the Yorubas. And we have those interesting conversations now where she will now be like, oh, so it's true, you are right. It's even true, self. These Oyinbo people, they were the ones that brought it. This is the Christianity self. Is it not the ones that all these pastors are now using to eat and everything and buy jets? Well, yeah, everybody will be all right. Let's just see. And then you still talk about, only God knows who's serving him. I don't even care about churches.
She's into deep, man.
She's into deep, but that skepticism jumps out once in a while. But then, because of that indoctrination is so deep, that brainwashing is so deep, it's hard
the community, the consequences you face.
Exactly.
Like all those, I'm a whole deaconess.
A whole deaconess, again.
Like, with what you're saying, I'm just thinking of what my parents will go through the day they find out. Hey, I hope they survive it too. Hey. Yeah, don't be sporty. Yeah. So now your parents are aware, your colleagues, your confidence. So I'm sure by the time you start looking at it, by the time you're looking at Nigeria's situation with those confident eyes, I'm sure your blood started boiling.
Yes.
Started saying, like, how do you feel religion is responsible for the state of our country? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so religion is a social institution, right?
Yeah.
It's where you mold people to embrace certain values and principles. Now, if you look at the kind of values and principles that religious institutions in our society have sort of inculcated into us, they are insidious, right? So it's about, one, materialism, excessive materialism. Two, we have the prosperity churches and stuff, right?
Yeah.
And two, it's also about individualism, which actually contradicts how Africans were before the advent of Christianity. I'll explain. So Africans were communal in terms of their socio-cultural philosophy, the way they even arranged, their society. So people lived in compounds. It didn't matter whether you were the wealthiest person, you live with your extended family, right? We didn't have a stratification like, okay, the rich will live in this place, the poor will live over there. All those things came as a result of colonialism. Not religion, but then religion accompanied colonialism and ensured that, okay, you know what, you, the Christian, you don't really have to mingle with your relatives who are non-Christians, because you are, you belong to Jesus now.
Don't be unequally yoked.
Yeah, you are better than them. Their own souls are damned, and they will be condemned to hellfire if they don't actually switch. So you have to then convert them now, right? So you could see how that started breaking that familial bond, and it created, sort of like
division.
The idea that, so the idea that, look, if I'm a Christian, then I have to only sort of mingle with my fellow Christians, marry them or whatever. And my God is sort of like, the only reason why I'm here, not because of you humans, not because of do you get what I'm saying? So
salvation is personal.
Yeah, salvation is personal, all those things. But that wasn't the case, prior to the advent of Christianity, right? So it didn't matter whether you were for Shokono or Shongo or Ogu, right? What mattered was just the fact that we belonged to the same clan or to the same community.
Yeah.
Yes, it wasn't a Christian society, not like everybody got along. But the point is that religion was not a mechanism for social stratification or division or whatever, or discrimination. But that started coming when Christianity and Islam came. And then obviously, like I said earlier, the values, materialism, individualism, then again, so you now see a situation where after colonialism, we inherited the structures that the colonial powers left. So those structures sort of enabled us to see. So it's our consciousness was racialized, right? So whiteness was basically seen as a symbol of privilege, right? And then anything that wasn't white was seen as inferior to whiteness. Now, we began to desire proximity to whiteness. And Christianity also became that platform where you can desire that proximity, right? In terms of you sort of worshipping a God that was already portrayed as sort of like a white man. And obviously, you also embracing Christianity in a way made you feel like you're embracing an aspect of whiteness, because it was something that the Europeans brought to us. In fact, a lot of Christians in Nigeria embrace Anglicanism first, or Catholicism. Anglicanism is essentially about the British, so you can see how it then made us move away from our devotional commitment to our own
African
our own society. We kind of really did not appreciate our values and all that. So we kind of embraced an alien religion that became a social institution that then molded us to desire proximity to whiteness and everything that wasn't Black or African. So now you can now see how materialism has actually permeated our psyche, and we only think it's not the only reason why we are materialistic, but it's one of those institutions that allowed it to flourish. Then because of this hyper religiosity too, we've not been able to separate the church from the state, right? So if you look at, again, traditional religions, some of them obviously provided justification for monarchs, right? So these monarchs were seen to be ordained by God and all that. But then it wasn't a situation where you had to, we still had a bit of a separation in terms of the political system. So let me use Oyo for instance. The Oyo Mesi wasn't really like a religious society. It was just a political institution that allowed for checks and balances of the Alafi and stuff, right? And you didn't need to be like there was. So for you to be a monarch, you didn't need to be like an Ifa worshipper or a Shango worshipper or something.
Okay.
All you just needed to be was the rightful heir to the throne, right? Or if your father says, look, let's appoint Adedapo as the new king, then that's okay, right? But now you kind of see that we even make considerations for, okay, you know what, you have to be a Christian for you to even govern here. You have to be a Muslim, or we can't have a Christian and a Muslim, or a Christian and a Christian Muslim. So those type of nonsense. So you can see how that
vice president.
Exactly. So you can see how that too has affected, the way we choose or select our leaders, or even the type of considerations we have when we want to choose them. And so many other ways that I think. So religion too, because it is very preponderant in our educational system. Now, religion does not allow for critical thinking.
At all.
If children are being raised, and so I remember when I became an atheist while in Nigeria, right? There's this school in my area. I don't know if you know it. It's a popular school, Dancehall High School.
Yeah, Dancehall, yeah.
We know Dancehall.
So
Dancehall, so I was staying in Ogba. So Dancehall, every morning, right, they will pray at the assembly ground, and they had their prefects. So these were basically kids who were now basically trained to pray every morning and stuff like that. So in my head, I'll be like, so how can these kids now even question anything if at this age they've been socialized and taught to really see everything as provided by God? Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, and then you look at the curriculum, right? Really more emphasis on religious studies, Christian, CRK, IRK, all those CRS, Christian religious studies, Islamic religious knowledge, all those things. But we don't have philosophy, we don't have ethics, we don't have anything that will allow for critical thinking. Teach students how to employ logical fallacies, or how to identify logical fallacies in argument. All those type of things. We don't teach them, right? The emphasis is on religion.
Yeah.
So
and the way
maybe
they teach itself.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe you won't necessarily blame the religious institution for that. You could blame the policymakers or the people in charge of,
It's a combo. Monday to Friday, then Saturday they relax more, then Sunday they hit them again in Sunday school.
Exactly. There you go. Exactly. Monday to Friday, you put it. So that's there. So how do you then, produce?
You have no chance.
Exactly. So how do you produce, members of society who are going to build a secular society where one religion will not be seen as a normative institution, or as something that everybody must embrace? So, yeah, it's just a lot. You could look at it in different ways, and you still see religion as a big part of our
corner.
issues. Yeah,
in every corner. That magical thinking.
I know. You look at how a lot of Nigerians have become gullible, and how they can easily just submit their brain cells and their thinking faculty for these pastors to do anything with them, right? And you look at those people, and these are the people that will still go out and vote in elections. People that will basically be told, look, just swallow this snake, and you're all those ridiculous things, and they believe anything. So these are the people that will go to the polls and then select your leaders. So it's a lot. Like the thinking is definitely regressive. The institution itself, which is a religious institution, only allows us to imbibe values and principles that are not also progressive, right? There's a reason why most religious people are bigots when it comes to sexuality, homosexuality, LGBT stuff, right? So they are also very misogynistic. It's still the institution that has ensured the prominence of those type of values in people. So you can look at it in different ways, and you still see religion as a problem.
Very big problem. Yeah. So, second to the last question now. Let's, with all you have been through now, let's say there's someone that's listening to this podcast. They have done extensive research, which, like you did. They've seen how the Bible, the Quran, the whole mythology, but for some inexplicable reason, they are still hanging on to these faiths. What would you advise? What advice would you give to such a person?
So it depends on the reason why they are still hanging on to it, right? So my advice would have to be, it's very hard for me to give you an advice unless I know why. So some people are still in the closet. Okay, so you mean like they still believe, not like
yes, they have seen all this research like you did, the whole how the mythology,
detached from
they still that maybe something like something is holding them, some fear of maybe it's fear of hell, or there's still that what if.
Yeah, so there's definitely that fear of losing the social ties that you've probably built while being a religious person or a Christian.
Yeah.
So, and that's the thing, right? As humans, we always long for a sense of belonging. We want to feel as if we are part of something, part of the community. So, for some people, their church perhaps provided that sense of belonging for them, right? Or being part of Christendom, perhaps provided that sense of belonging. And that might be something they really don't want to lose, because it's a need that has to be satisfied. I'm sure you're familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, so you kind of have that part of esteem and sense of belonging to, among other things. So if there is no way if they feel like there's no way they can fill that gap, right, then that might explain why they still want to hold on to that religion. And another way, it could be that they just really don't have, maybe the capacity to fully unlearn. And, they are just still not fully detached from, the indoctrination or the brainwashing that they've gone through. So my advice would just be that you just have to understand that a lot of the things that you were taught as a child, like you didn't. So first of all, you didn't even come into this world with anything, any belief, or any knowledge of any God or whatever. Yeah. So if you look at it that way, then you should know that you embrace all these things through social learning. Like in the course of you growing up, these things were taught to you. And if they were taught to you, you can reteach yourself and say, okay, they taught me that this God is the one that we need to worship. This God is the one that will, condemn me to hellfire or take me to heaven, depending on what I do here on earth and all that. Now I can see that all these things are actually hogwash, and they are just the fabrications of other people, blah blah blah. Now, having realized that, okay, you can't live your life, using fabrications as a guide. You can't live your life, sort of using mythological accounts as your guiding principle and stuff. So I think the sensible thing to do is to detach from that and be realistic with life itself. You are going to die, and that'll be the end of it. You are just a bundle of cells, tissues, bones, and all sorts of things, and you don't have a soul, you don't have a spirit. There's really nothing special about you. The universe itself is really like you have when someone deepens his or her knowledge about the universe too, I think that also sort of gives more illumination with regards to why it would be foolish to believe in God, right? Because this universe,
They're
this
so
natural,
small.
it's too small. This material thing here is all that we know and all that we have. So these ideas of supernaturality and spiritual realms and all, it's all just man-made. You can't know, you don't know, and we know they don't exist because we know their origins and where those ideas came from. So I think it's really about knowing that these things are they are not real. Like it's all just made up. So perhaps one has to just embrace that reality and be content with living with that reality.
That's true. Nice one. So, Bundok, would like you to help us. Can you refer to some resources, books, blogs, podcasts, YouTube channel that you feel that would be of benefit?
Yeah, so there's this thing about Jesus, right? Whether he existed or not. I'm sure it's a debate that we must have had with people, right?
Yeah, so
I'll point people to. I'm just going to mention one YouTube channel, not a YouTube video, but it's actually.
If you have the link, you can send it to me via chat now, Seth, if you can.
Oh, okay.
I will just put in the show notes.
Okay. So his name is Richard Carrier. He has a PhD in, I think, in religious studies. So he's a historian and a philosopher. So there's this video called "Why Invent Jesus." So in that video, it's actually about 1 hour. It has 2.1 million views on YouTube. So in that video, he basically unpacked, exposed, broke down, dissected, whatever word you want to use. The fact that Jesus was actually never real. He has written books on this stuff too. But by the time you listen to that or watch that video, you'll be curious enough to want to sort of know about his writings and stuff. So that's someone I would just recommend for people to read. Other things I'm sure you're already familiar. I mean, I think a lot of it is read the same thing. Sapiens, David Chaplin. We all know the same atheists.
Some of us are not book readers, so we prefer your YouTube channel.
Have you read The Devil's Chaplain?
Nah. I'm not. Okay, so, I'm one of those.
Okay, so The Devil's Chaplain is a good book written by Richard Dawkins, actually. But he didn't make ridiculous stuff there. It's actually an interesting read. Then there's another one. Then there's another one called The History of God. So The History of God actually also details how God was created by humans.
Okay.
So it was written by, I think, let me check her name very well. The book is not here with me now. Is it Karen Armstrong? Yeah, Karen Armstrong.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's A History of God by Karen Hey, see this Yoruba H factor. Don't disgrace us on the History of God.
Well, that needs to be studied because I don't understand how.
No matter how, whatever. That thing will jump out like a demon.
There's something your esophagus. I don't. The heck will just say.
I'm telling you, I've spoken for almost 1 hour. No H factor. Now that I'm about to round up, this seed just came out to embarrass his life. It doesn't even need to introduce himself anymore. We now know where. I would say Armstrong. Hey, the PhD holder, please don't read my life. I'm joking. Yeah, but it's actually fine, really. I think we just normally overthink it. But I mean, I've read English people speak with like the nastiest accent and intonation you can think of. So it's all right.
Yeah.
So yeah, The History of God by Karen Armstrong,
Okay.
and then The Devil's Chaplain by Richard Dawkins, Sapiens by Yuval Harari. That's another good book. And then just look for that video. I'll send that link to you.
Okay.
Career. Why
All right.
Invent the Jesus? That's the name. The title. Yeah.
Nice. So we have come to the end. Do you want us to find you on social?
Yeah, so my Twitter, Dr. Kappa.
Okay.
That's all.
All right. So, Doctor, thank you for sharing your story with us.
No,
I really
wahala.
enjoyed this conversation.
Okay, that's a good one.
I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. You did well. Doctor, doctor, no, they fall on.
Thanks, man. It was nice to talk to you too. I appreciate the invite.
Thank you.
And good work, bro. Nice one.
Thank you. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you for listening. Subscribe up Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get podcasts from, and I will catch you on the next one.